on to the LEC Regional Qualifiers. After losing Game 1, Splyce, they have bounced back and looks to continue their road to Worlds. Splyce coming in here and maybe, I wouldn't say reverse sweep, but at least going down one game and then fighting back 2 games. Great effort from them so far.
Yeah, definitely so. And I think that we saw a shift in their styles where they started going much more towards that scaling route. And it seems like every single one of these games is going to go the distance. I don't think either of these teams are super well equipped to close out at the same rate of a team like Fnatic or G2. So these are going to be long games. And the more Splyce continue to play into the style, the better it's going to look for them.
What I found interesting is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you said before we went into Game 3 that if OG get a good late game comp, they should actually be better than Splyce, which I found odd because we've always considered Splyce as this masterful late game team. So do you think OG has dropped the ball in the picks then and the compositions not being up to par to that?
I think OG just felt overconfident after last game. They thought it's a good idea to give Splyce Corki again, which is a mistake. So like they just need to pick around the Corki, I think. Yamato knows better.
I think you have to watch how the series have been played out. And I think the point that has been very clear is that both teams have signed a peace treaty before Baron spawn. Nothing really is going on. And at that point, you have big power spikes. You need to look at how the team compositions scale. And I think that's what both teams should look to just combat for. We saw the Gangplank first pick here from Origen, which was an adaptation in that direction. But as I said in the cast room, there was a very exotic Gangplank build that's not going to scale that well.
As exotic as your shirt, I think.
Yeah.
What was the weirdest thing about
More
it?
colors than the shirt.
But honestly, he just bought items that just shaped the color of the rainbow. It was Death Dance, Spirit Visage. There was the Executioner's Calling, which is good into Aatrox, but there was no crit coming in. With such a build, you're not going to do anything. I think this is a build where you want to survive in the split push. But I think you need to play for those big crits. That's what you're hoping for when you pick Gangplank.
Yeah, and adding to that point, so to sum it up, you're saying both teams will pick for late game next game, right? This brings us to a really interesting series. We'll have another 40-minute late game fest with Elder Dragons. I personally have not seen an Elder Dragon. I've been playing solo queue for some months now. I don't remember the last Elder Dragon.
Sorry, what do you say? Elder Dragon?
Elder Dragon.
What's that?
Because my games end in 20 minutes.
So what you're saying
Both
is,
sides.
In the current meta, and also if you look at our top 2, which is kind of what we measure everything else in the LEC against, these guys are going completely against the grain by going late game, and you should actually be able to win early game. But Gilius, if both teams aren't doing anything, then what's going to happen?
It's great. I think stick to the plan. Go for late. But yeah, the series will take a long time.
I think something to point out is that, you know, there's something very scary about the fact that this might be the last best of 5 they play in this season. You know, this is something that means so much.
Yeah.
So maybe this is them just taking that slow approach and being very careful about what's coming up.
I was going to say, there is so much on the line for both of these
That's
teams.
true.
So did you want to add something?
Yeah, I was also just going to say, I think going for the faster closeout like G2 or Fnatic, it's a much harder style of League of Legends to play, where it's very up to, like, you need to make the right decisions, you have to be very proactive. And I don't think either of these 2 teams are super good, especially in the mid game, at going for that same style. So I think they are just trying to stick to their strengths, and both of them happen to be the same. So that means we're going to see very long, very deliberate games.
Yeah, I think we can be a bit more forgiving knowing that this is a series where a lot is on the line.
One more point. I think we have to give huge props to Zanzarah in the early game. He's doing a great job.
Yeah.
But Zanzarah has to start picking champs that actually can win games.
Yeah, because he's been doing good with what he's been given, but don't you think OG is also saying, hey, we don't want you to pick anything too wacky that we're not used to playing with, Gilius?
I think the Trundle pick is a comfort pick for him, which is, it works into some comps, but in this game the pillar has 0 impact, and I think Yamato agrees with me.
Honestly, pick the Ornn.
I want the orange so badly, please.
Honestly, I don't know jack shit about Ornn jungle, but it scales good. I know what the champion does. You have a fantastic ultimate that can change games. You can build items. You know, you can do a bunch of stuff.
Items.
Honestly, when I look at this game, I don't want picks like the Elise. I don't want the Olaf in the jungle. I want level 6 junglers. If Qiyana's open, I want Qiyana. I want to see some Gragas. I want to see the Ornn for Zanzarah. You just pick a strong scaling jungler like that, your team fight value just goes up through the roof.
Yeah, but now Now Splyce is up on match point. Does that mean Xerxe has been doing better? Because we had some criticism for him in game 1.
No, I mean, I think if we actually looked at that early roll from just a second ago, Zanzarah has been much more effective inside of the early games. I think Xerxe ended up picking up 2 kills here, but it wasn't really through proactive early game ganking. I think Zanzarah has been much stronger at that. And I think a lot of that has been focused around the top lane.
So how is Splyce won then? Simply late game?
Scaling.
Scaling. I have a question. Do we have the clip of the level 1 invade from Splyce?
No.
So what happened is, I remember it pretty well. They went for a late invade with Olaf, which is really smart. And then 1 minute 1:30, you should go. And they backed off. And Olaf started his Raptors 1:42. This just shows me Splyce is not on the same page or not willing to go in, like just invade. And stop playing for early game if you're going to do this.
If you're going to do late game anyway. And when we talk about late game, we talk a lot about the marksmen. So let's look at how they've been doing. Kobbe, of course, the man we talk about when it comes to those late game teamfights, who's been doing quite well. But Patrik has also had his moments. Just where does the difference lie between these 2 bot laners this series, Yamato?
I feel like they've been the kind of outliers in terms of performance. I think both have played quite well. I think the biggest difference is what they pick. We saw, 3 games of Xayah now for... Was it 3 games?
Yeah, 3 Xayah.
I think so, yeah.
3 Xayah games, two of those lost, but it was against an AD carry that you could consider in some cases to scale better. One time we saw Patrik bought by the wrong items, and that was terrible. I think Lucian versus Xayah just better in the late game. We saw it. And
Like
I think you just have to pick the better scaling AD
I mean,
carry.
Vayne won a game, right?
It did.
Yeah.
She did.
It's not
rather.
so.
Kobbe did.
Yeah.
That's how that works. Then let's take a look at, as we go into this deciding game, OG has to pull it back, Yamato. What are their win conditions if they want to bring us to game 5?
So honestly, we have had a lot of discussion about the late game. And my point here that I made was just pick Corki for Nukeduck. You know, Corki is such a good scaler. When he gets a bunch of items, all of a sudden becomes so scary. Corki has been a deciding factor for Splyce kind of well-being into the late game. And then give Mithy agency. I think we saw in game 3 what Mithy could potentially do with his Alistar. We saw him on the flank engages. I'm sure in the replay we're going to see it. Look at Mithy's position here. This is some Hylissang tactics right here. He's keeping his position. Then over here on the Raptors, he's waiting for the fight to go, and then he's winning this fight because it starts quite horribly. And then right now he's in the mix of it. He found a good flank, and this could have ended terribly bad.
He was so patient there, actually.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
the right moment.
He's a Zen monk right here.
Yeah, and it wasn't just on his flanks too, because I think in this fight as well, or potentially later on, he actually punts Humanoid out of the fight over wall.
This one.
Yeah, he knocks him over this wall right here in just a moment. It's actually super smart because it forces Humanoid to actually Valkyrie back in and use his escape to get in the fight, and he's like instantly jumped on and has to flash away.
Lord
when
Jesus.
you say give Mithy agency, what do you mean then? Is it give him these picks like Alistar where he can make something happen, or is it put more into it in the early game, in the bottom lane, or where do you want to go?
So game 1 we saw the Rakan into Braum. They got a solo kill, they got a 2v2 kill.
Yeah.
This time around, another good matchup. Lucian, Alistar into the Nautilus and Xayah. They managed to also get a solo kill. When Mithy gets going, he starts to get a bit more confident, and then he starts to do these engages. So if they can invest a little bit to get Mithy rolling, I'm really excited for what OG can bring to the table.
Ender, how does Splyce get themselves to round 2 of the gauntlet?
Well, for me, it's going to start with the draft again. I want scaling picks for the side of Splyce, but in a couple of different ways. I want like the late game scaling options, but also give me like some champions with strong one-item fighting potential, because we've seen in multiple games now, Origen are just willing to run into you around 15 to 20 minutes and fight for objectives. So get a strong comp at that point too. And then also close the top gap. Now, Vizicsacsi has done great in some of these later game team fights. I don't want to dispute that, but the way that Origen have been getting early game leads is Zanzarah coming through the top lane, and on the side of Splyce, we just haven't seen any attention given over towards Chachi. So I think be aware of that, shut that down, and Origen haven't shown any other real way to get an early game lead.
Yeah, and I think like Humanoids should keep picking Corki. But now he might not get the Corki, so...
Well, OG picked blue, so if that's... Do you think that is why they picked blue?
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised.
If you're Splyce, you just ban it, though, no?
Maybe. It depends if they see it the same way as us. Like, we're talking a lot about the Corki. We're obsessed about the Corki. Won 2 games now. I'm pretty excited about the Corki.
Result-based analysis.
But Yamato, my question is, let's say OG takes away the Corki. What is the next scaling pick of Humanoid?
Well, it depends. Does he play Tristana? Does he have a Sylas with good ultimates? Because here Nukeduck played Sylas, but the only good ultimate he had was Nautilus. Otherwise, he had Xayah, Olaf, Aatrox.
Pretty bad, yeah.
It's all pretty bad. Like Sylas with good ultimates does scale good, But in this particular case, only Nautilus ult is not good enough for him to be a juicy late game champion.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about, I guess, how does Splyce get their late game picks and how do they interact with each other, as Yamato says?
Well, I guess you can never ban out enough stuff so that Splyce doesn't find any late game picks, right? I mean, they're always going to have something. Like, you're going to leave a Vayne up, or you're going to leave something up. Or is it contingent on other factors for Splyce? It isn't as simple as, okay, we need 2 late game scaling champions and that's it.
Well, I think right now what we're seeing is a lot of the same bans from game to game. So red side seems to need to ban the Qiyana as well as the Akali. Those are pretty static. Blue side needs to ban the Yuumi. I think now we've seen Splyce also banning the Draven in multiple games. So those are taking up a lot of the slots, which makes it really hard to justify banning away something like the Corki, especially since we haven't seen the priority be first pick value just yet.
And there we go, into picks and bans for what could be the last game of this best of 5 series in the first round of the Gauntlet. Splyce is on match point and are on red side. Origen will get first dibs, so we'll see if the bans follow the pattern we've seen so far. And yes, it does. A Qiyana for OG and a Draven for Splyce.
Can I cast this game?
You mean the picks and bans?
Oh, no.
Go ahead.
Whole game. Oh, GP ban.
We'll ask maybe Vedius and Medic
I'm joking.
on a slot. Yeah, the GP ban coming out, Yamato.
That's one of those late game champions that I think Vizicsacsi did better on further on to the game. I think Alphari was better in lane phase, but we talked about the Zoti build. It was just not good enough.
The colorful build, but is something that they want to be
This is Yuumi
wary of.
first pick now for Origen. What they're looking for, it's been blue side ban, as you said.
Yeah, I personally, I think banning on blue side is a little troll there. Ooh, they're actually going for the Tristana here as
carry
well.
bans.
So, okay, so Akali's still open, the Yuumi's still open, as you mentioned. So if Origen don't ban either of those, they basically can do the handshake trade where you take the Yuumi for yourself and you give over the Akali. But if you have
get the
Silas as an answer, I think you're okay, yeah?
No
I think
Corki
they're
ban
giving-
so far.
They're forcing OG to pick an AD carry first pick here.
I don't think there's enough bans, right? I think they're just
Yeah.
setting up the Kai'Sa. We have the Lucian, Ezreal. What else do we have? Trying to think of AD
But this is
carries.
just a trap, no?
Xayah is also open. We have Xayah Rakan open. Crazy how low prior Rakan has had this series.
I think what OG should do here is not fall for the trap, just pick the Corki.
Yeah.
And then Patrik should have the confidence to play the Lucian
I mean, yeah,
or
also-
the Vayne
I
himself.
mean, he's played so much. He's played Ezreal, Xayah, Draven, Sivir, Ashe, Kai'Sa. So like,
No ban!
No ban!
Oh, they didn't ban.
Wait, just take Yuumi.
Yeah, first pick Yuumi.
It's
and
right
then
there.
Xayah Rakan is the answer.
Oh, they should go.
Has to be the answer, no?
What a curveball.
I think they should
What's going on?
first pick Rakan here. No, Corki.
If it's
no?
G2
See,
Fnatic,
but
for sure.
if
First
you're
pick-
already confused, guess what they're doing to OG? Their whole plan is up in flames because they didn't ban him.
I mean, Rakan is correct.
Oh.
Okay, no, this is
Xayah.
this is
Okay.
Wait.
And then they get the Yuumi.
The Xayah Rakan prior is
Do
understandable.
they pick
for
Yuumi Garen though?
But why Xayah over Rakan?
Oh, Corki.
Ooh, so
Looking
is
like a
this-
good game for Splyce.
So has the ball been dropped now by OG? What do you think of it?
I think it completely depends if our boys in yellow can play Garen. If they can play Garen, all of a sudden their composition looks like a scalar. We have a Corki Yuumi composition. Can Mithy carry on the Xayah Rakan combination? That's the question.
Well, you gave him a lot of props. Do you think the Xayah Rakan is the bot duo to do it with?
I know what's happening
sure.
here.
Okay.
I know what's happening.
Gilius?
He wants to play Z. I think Nuke is planning the Z, no?
Maybe. Maybe
Oh.
against Garen, Yuumi, Corki though, I don't know.
Yeah.
We have an Exhaust
I don't think you're ever killing that Garen if you go Zed here.
Would be very rough.
Because Nuke didn't pick third, so he has the confidence to go really
They're never
deep in
gonna
the
ban
champion
that.
pool.
Yeah.
So now there's gonna be target bans.
Silas second wave ban should be good here for Splyce.
Yeah.
So Origen knew they were giving over the Garen Yuumi, by the way, because
Ban.
obviously
Vayne
otherwise
ban.
they would have
That's not
possibly broken it up. And Gilius is right, and that Splyce is going to continue banning the AD carries. This is a dicey pick and ban.
Vayne
Yeah.
ban.
They
Okay,
pick
are they
Xayah
expecting
Rakan.
funnel? Xayah Rakan funnel?
I don't
Is
know
that
what's
up?
going on.
Mr.
Otherwise,
Vayne
Vayne ban doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
Mr.
Vayne
Duke.
top?
They have Xayah Rakan. But
I mean, so Alphari is like,
He
no
played it
meme,
once
Alphari
in the
has played the
Mordekaiser.
top lane, the Vayne a couple times, into like the Mordekaiser, I believe, but I think that is strange, unless you're planning on picking like some super vulnerable top laner here to some range champion like a Vayne.
But they should fifth pick top, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the
Blind pick
second
Vayne.
ban
This is
again.
fourth pick jungle.
No way.
This looks like a fourth pick Gnar again. Should be decent. and then
Unless they think it could be the mid lane main for Nukeduck.
Ryze ban.
Can you explain me the Ryze ban, Yamato?
Make some sense of this, Yamato.
I think Ryze is an okay pick into Corki, but it's not something that Nukeduck has shown prior on. Maybe they want to put Nukeduck on Sylas. They want to make sure they play Sylas no matter what. They didn't think it was that good, and this is what
His ultis are great this game, no, Yamato? Yuumi, Garen. Garen ult's pretty nice on that.
If we get the fourth pick Nara as well, I think he has some good ultimates to work with here. It's definitely better than the previous game.
Yeah, we talk about for Yuumi though, it's not just about Yuumi, it's about kind of the vessel she can latch onto. So what would you like to see in the Splyce composition, Ender?
I think generally, like, Aatrox got banned away, which was going to be my initial thought is Aatrox plus Yuumi is absolutely insane. But any sort of, like, initiation jungler, I think, can also be good. Something like a Skarner can always be sped up, and with that extra range that you can provide, can lock people down. But the Jarvan, too, so much range on that champion. EQ forward into the ultimate, Yuumi ult down on top of that as well.
Jarvan Rumble, that's the plan, huh?
Okay.
Jarvan Rumble.
Yeah, maybe against Xayah, that's hard.
Yeah.
She doesn't have an escape, she could just ult.
Last pick Rumble, and now...
You said it was going to be the Zed. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the Yasuo.
Maybe it is, but
Actually,
we don't
it
talk
is.
about hovers.
It's Gragas Yasuo. It's actually really good.
That's actually... That's spicy. And Kennen. Yeah, that team fight is insane.
Wait. This might be a scenario where they go Yasuo, Gragas bot, and then they go Xayah, Rakan funnel.
You think they're going to funnel Zanzarah, a player they played with for maybe 2 days?
No, meaning Patrik is going to play the Xayah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Patrik plays the Xayah, Nukeduck plays the Yasuo, but this is very cocktail.
We talked so much about
Rumble, right?
scaling and team fights and whatnot, so how good is then this Origen comp? This team fight's great, but you do have to get to a point where you can utilize it, right?
Honestly, I am voting for Origen composition here. I think it's easier to execute Xayah Rakan and the Gragas combo. I think Corki, we saw many times Humanoid the previous game actually got caught, but here, the wind wall, if Nukeduck plays good, he can actually show off with the bigger carry
all
here.
in on the full team fight composition for Origen. How can Splyce throw a wrench in that?
Splyce comp is a very tanky composition, which can kite and survive really well. It's really hard to kill them. So I think if OG plays the map correctly, splits them away from each other, they have a shot.
I have to just add, honestly, I'm talking about Nukeduck and how he has to play the Yasuo. It's freaking hard to play against Renekton, Garen, Jarvan. So good luck, Nukeduck. I hope for the best. You know?
It's true. I think Splyce, Xerxe needs to go top lane, dunk on this Kennen in the early game, get Vizicsacsi fed, because he's going to be sort of the bridging factor in the mid game to take it home for Splyce.
What I do love is that both teams are willing to take some risks to a certain degree if you've got Garen, Yuumi, but showing us something different in order to bring it to a silver scrapes and game 5 for Origen, or for Splyce to make it to the second round of the gauntlet. Fantastic compositions, and the teams are ready on the Rift. So let's head over to our casters.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. What could be the deciding game of this best of 5? We have Garen, Yuumi, we have Yasuo. Got some exciting picks here, Vedius.
So it was really interesting to me, the way in which they talked about the draft. I think that they're still talking about the draft. We can hear them in our distant memories.
I just like hearing Yamato's voice.
Yeah.
It's very calming.
It is. Very soothing. Yes, hello, Sjokz. I can hear you. Do you speak to me from the beyond?
From the other side. She must have tried 1,000 times.
So, what I really like about the Splyce comp is like how die focused it is. I think it scales really well. Garen, Yuumi, once they get to a certain point in the game, like, it's really strong. And you basically just, you run at enemy, and you just, that's it. I wish it was more complicated than that, but it's really not. You just run at them. And Corki scales so well that, like, I think you have a lot of, you don't need Xerxe and Vizicsacsi to be damage, because you'll have so much damage coming out from the Corki, and then the Yuumi poke as well. Like, Splyce comp, really strong. Obviously, one of the biggest weaknesses of it is that you don't really have an early game. Especially in the bot side of the map, where this Xayah Rakan can be very impactful. The issue I have is that Origen haven't showcased a single time this series that they have an ability to play through an effective early game. So I feel like the Splyce have taken the right approach. I think that their current game plan is to just wait and scale and wait to team fight, and I think that their comp is much easier to execute in the team fight. It's extremely tanky, as Gilius said. I think for a Yasuo, it's really hard to play against this comp. And so, yeah, we'll see how things play out. There's a lot more focus on Origen to somehow find an early game lead.
I'll see how they can do that. Zanzarah, Gilius said, has been pretty consistent throughout the course of this series. Maybe this is one of the games where he needs to be let off the leash a little bit. See the Zanzarah that we saw in EU Masters, the one that would pick on jungle. Would get some early ganks off with Sejuani. We have Drawn a couple of lines on the top corner of the screen there. I'll just remove those for you as Mithy and Patrik. Maybe looking for something early on. We always talk about shutting down Garen Yuumi early as a key factor to mitigating how strong they can get later on.
You know, I've like never seen it, at least in Europe. I know recently in the LCK they played Garen Yuumi, and that one definitely didn't go very well at all. However, I do think that it's just so hard, man. Garen is like so tanky. It's so obnoxious. And the amount of passive health regeneration that he gets as well, on top of the healing that you get from the Yuumi. I mean, Frost recently did a great meta report on it.
She did. Should watch that. lollysports.com. Sorry, YouTube/lollysports if you haven't seen it before.
It's really insightful and tells you exactly how it all works. In any case, let's talk a little bit more about the junglers rather than the bot lane. We can see the Zanzarah doing a full bot side clear, same for Xerxe. Xerxe will now hit the level 3 mark as he's just secured the red buff, and now he's going to be in a position to assist the top lane. Because Vizicsacsi is playing the Renekton, he's at a range disadvantage, which means that Alphari will have a lot of poke and harassment in his toolkit to enable him to build up a decent lead in the early game. You can see that he's running the Kleptomancy as well, which really does help. Bot lane is getting pushed in, meanwhile mid is where Corki has the push over the Yasuo. And Yasuo usually struggles in these range matchups very early on. Once he gets a couple levels under his belt and some items, he's actually in a much better spot.
Sjokz does land the stun there as he was spotted out on the ward. You can see Alphari using the lightning rush to just try and escape. I do want to ask, you know, Alphari with the Kleptomancy and with the Doran's Blade start, does that imply that he's going to go down this AD route, or are we likely to see an AP cannon?
I would want to see an AP cannon. If he does AD, then he's making the game really easy for Splyce, because you expect them all to build Tabi. And Ninja Tabi is already very good against the likes of Yasuo and Xayah. But if you build AD cannon, then it's just so free.
Yep.
So I really want him to go AP. I think.
Oh, Kobbe uses the courage there. Getting the tenacity that it grants you means that he doesn't quite get stunned up. And as you say, that healing already starting to kick in from Norskeren and from Kobbe's passive.
So you can see that Kobbe obviously added disadvantage in the early game. You'd very much expect it. Like, this is very natural, range versus melee. We talk about it a lot. But also Garen can struggle to approach the wave, given that his... it's not super easy for him. He doesn't have many abilities that help with his last hitting either. But going back to the top lane, yeah, I think it makes way more sense for Alphari to go AP. Yep. Usually you just start with a Doran's Blade because you're so auto-attack reliant. So the AD gives you a little bit more AD to... sorry.
The
Doran's Blade...
The AD does give you more AD.
It does. The Doran's Blade gives you more AD, which helps with your last hitting and with your auto-attack harassment that you have during the early laning phase. But it's very easy for him to transition into AP off the back of this. However, if he goes back and he... because normally we don't see the Gunblade builds anymore. No. So usually you'll see a Proto Belt, and that should be a good indication of what direction he's going early on.
Good to know. And Patrik and Mithy with the early push in the bottom lane, as you said, very much expected. You're playing a melee matchup really into double ranged or thereabouts. It's very hard for the Garen Yuumi to do too much here. Zanzarah maybe looking for a gank down towards the bottom side. He's going to put the control ward in the pit, in the bush, sorry. And we'll be spotted out by Kobbe and Norskeren, who are penned back towards their tower. 2 plates fall, and Origen have about a 400, 500 gold lead early on.
So again, the early game looks good for Origen, as you would expect. Winning matchup top, winning matchup bot. So you'd imagine already things look fine for them, right? Yep. But the thing for Splyce is it's one of those games where they don't need to get ahead early, as long as they mitigate their losses. Yep. And if they find advantages, then it only sets them up better for success. And so the responsibility falls on Origen to be proactive with their lead. So the fact that they're keeping a push in bot lane is good. You want to be funneling as much gold onto your Kai'Sa as possible. Get her to those spikes as soon as you can, so that you can start forcing fights earlier. And then you can force Splyce into a situation where they're not online with their comp yet. But them, right now, being in a deficit, not the end of the world, and not something that they really have to stress about.
I'm sure they won't be too worried as of yet. We've had 3 games so far. All of them have gone well past the 30-minute mark, so we likely have 24 minutes at least more of action. Xerxe looking for a gank up towards the top side. Alphari uses the lightning rush, has just hit 6 though, so he has the slicing mushroom, and it's a big wave pushing in. If Xerxe dives into this, it's a little bit dangerous, especially since Zanzarah's on his way. Alphari puts the slicing mushroom, gets the double stun. TP coming in here by Splyce, and Alphari's low, he's gonna fall. Now they put the Cataclysm down onto Zanzarah. It's Kobbe and Norskeren on the chase. The Zoomies trying to speed up Xerxe, but they can't chase down Zanzarah, who's got those Predator boots.
So, good gank from Splyce. Remember what we said, they don't need to get ahead early, but they can by playing through the top side of the map. Renekton, Jarvan, a very strong 2 versus 2. He manages to sneak in to the lane, and they find a successful kill, relieve some of the pressure that's being put down onto Vizicsacsi, and they get the flash out from Alphari as well. The problem for Splyce is that their bot lane actually TP'd up towards the top side of the map, and they're losing so much experience off the back of making this play.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you're not getting farm, right? Because you're going to scale up later. You can compensate for that, given your scaling advantage. But the experience that you lose off the back of that is a really big deal. Delaying your levels, now currently only being level 4, and the fact that Splyce's Origen's bot lane is very close to securing that tower could hurt Splyce a lot in the long run.
As you say, the tower falling could be incredibly impactful because if Origen get 5 plates in the bot lane on their AD carry, she then gets to a very strong point, the Xayah, towards that mid game, and you can see Patrik already at 2,500 gold, where Kobbe's only at 1.9.
Now, this is one of those situations where, given that you've done so much down to the plate bot, you could have even considered swapping, but because the first Drake is mountain, and because of how easy it is to get priority, they can easily take this tower and then convert it into a bot Drake as well. TP actually coming into top lane.
See Humanoid looking for the flank there, going in with the Valkyrie Alphari, no flash, no way out, and Humanoid will get the 2nd kill of the game for Splyce.
So Origen doing, Splyce doing a good job of trying to attack Alphari. He's not getting that much support because of how much investment is going towards the bot side of the map, and Origen are immediately going to convert this into a Mandrake.
It looks like Alphari might be going towards the Gunblade build here on the Kennen. Origen going for the Mandrake Drake, as you say, the Windwall comes out. It's Kobbe and Norskeren trying to distract them from this. Xerxe on his way in as well, has the smite. Why are they fighting it? Indeed, because the last breath comes out. Zanzarah secures his first kill of this 4th game. Humanoid coming in with the Valkyrie as well. Will force Origen away. Yeah, they lose a kill for it, but they force Origen away for the moment. Chachi doesn't have the TP. Zanzarah's still on the Drake. No smite, of course, on Splyce as they have lost their jungler, but Zanzarah's down to about 200 HP and he's forced out.
So, okay, Splyce do successfully stop the Drake from going down. However, they don't stop the tower from falling, and they also give a kill over to Origen. They didn't need to force that fight. It's so dangerous to take fights like that, especially when your whole game plan is to scale. If the Renekton was there, I get it. It would make more sense, right? Because he is very strong at this point in the game. If you can get more kills and you can get the Trinity Force onto Humanoid, then it makes more sense. But without him, it's very dangerous to take that kind of a play, especially given how squishy Xerxe is this early on. So, wasn't a massive fan of that play coming out from Splyce. I feel like they should have played a little bit safer, but they do stop the Matt and Drake from going down. And now you would imagine that the bot lane of Origen will look to move up towards either the top side or the mid lane, so they can look to still play around these neutral objectives in the form of the Matt and Drake and the Rift Herald.
They're in the mid lane right now. Nukeduck's going down towards bot. Important to note, he doesn't have teleport on this Yasuo. He's running the Ignite, the combat summoner, for those fights. But it means that if he is down towards this bottom side, he can't join a fight that might begin around the Rift Herald, which has just spawned.
Still keeping an eye on this Alphari build. Seeing lifesteal always concerns me. I really don't want him to go AD, but like the fact that he's got Sork Boost suggests that, okay, if he goes for Gunblade, that's still fine. I'm fine with a Gunblade. As long as he then builds some AP afterwards, that's what I would prefer to see. Wait, Vizicsacsi actually has Merc Treads. Okay.
So I think he thinks Alphari's going for the AP build. Xerxe trading here onto Alphari. TP coming in by Patrik. Mithy has the charm, going to land it on both of them. There's the knockup as well, and with the Blaze being called back, Origen takes 2 kills in the top lane. A fight happening in mid as Humanoid went
He gets
down.
the knockup.
Side looking for the knockup. There we go. Kobbe's pretty tanky. He won't fall.
Yep, they're not able to find any kills there. But great punish from the side of Origen. They're able to find 2 kills on the top side of the map, and they can actually start off the Rift Herald. Remember, they just secured the mountain as well. So Origen actually doing a good job of starting to snowball this early game gold lead. They're nearly at 3,000 right now, and a lot of it's just because Splyce keep trying to force these plays. They got 2 good kills onto Alphari. They tried to make it a 3rd. They didn't respect the teleport on Patrik and the fact that Mithy was roaming up, and they end up getting punished for it. And it's about bringing it back, right? remember that Splyce just want to scale. That's their whole game plan. And if you can find early game advantages, then fine. It's definitely worth it. But you can, this is a very hard force. You know, very close to the tower. They don't respect the TP, as we mentioned. And the Rakan was roaming up as well. And you just look at this play and you go, okay, if you get this play, how much more does it benefit you? And the honest answer is that it doesn't really. So Splyce just make the game harder for themselves when they try and force these plays. And the irony of it is, throughout this series, they've played a very slow early game where they actually haven't tried to force a lot, and it ends up working out for them in the later game fight. So I feel like they need to just return back a little bit more to how they were playing. But yeah, this gold deficit now starting to hurt them. They're losing a lot of plates to the Xayah. You can see the goal difference between the two AD carries. Mid lane, a big lead is starting to build. And even though Alphari was killed a lot because of the Kleptomancy, he's still actually been able to pick up a lot of gold himself. So Origen in a very good position right now.
Yeah, very strong. 1,200 gold lead for Patrik over Kobbe, although that comparison is a little bit difficult to make when it's a Xayah against the Garen. Of course, the Garen not the key component of the Garen Yuumi combo, but Origen continue to knock down these plates. This will be their 5 + 4 + 4. What's that? 13th? They've just taken 13 plates. This will be their 14th.
There's still 4 plates left in the mid lane, my friend.
Oh, yes. Sorry, this will be their 11th.
Yes, it will. There you go. 11 plates.
I accidentally added on another 4 for some reason.
That's all right.
Ignore that. And Splyce look down towards the bottom side. Splicing Mouse comes out. Humanoid charmed up. And it will be a kill onto Alphari. Mithy trying to flash away. Xerxe still tanking up the tower. Mithy goes golden, but Humanoid dies. Mithy will fall as well. Oh, Xerxe almost went down. Splyce do get 2 kills.
Splyce force another dive bot lane. This is going to give even more plates over to Patrik. Nukeduck is going to also siege onto this tier 2 in the top side. And yes, Splyce are finding these kills. They're really trying hard to shut down Alphari, like really trying hard. Yep. But more gold is just going into the pockets, and you can see that the gold lead only gets bigger when Splyce tried to make these plays in favor of Origen. And
Nukeduck just took a tier 2 in the top lane.
Yeah.
And Xerxe and Xerxe are trying to still get this tier 1. It just feels like the Splyce that we saw in regular season that was much more measured and controlled, and the Splyce we've seen in the first 3 games today, it hasn't arrived yet.
I mean, but also you just look at the map state, right? Like, just look at top lane. Look at where that wave is set up. Look at how they don't have prio in mid. They're, like, not in a position to commit all of their wave clear and one of their strongest members into this kind of a play. And yes, they end up getting the bot tower. This is fine, right? But, like, the reason why I'm bringing so much attention towards this is because the best case scenario for Splyce is they have extended laning phases and they slow the game down. And you could sit there and argue that, oh, well, Origen is being super proactive, but the thing is, Origen aren't. They're just taking advantage of the fact that Splyce is being proactive by constantly making trades and snowballing their early game lead even more. So now they've extended it to 3.2k, and you can see a lot of core items have now been completed. The Gunblade is finished in the top lane, the Static Shiv is finished for the Yasuo, and the Essence Reaver, along with the Executioner's Calling, is now done for Patrik. So OG is in a position where they could start looking for fights.
Yep.
You know, when the Drake spawns, I mean, the Drake is spawning very, very soon, but when these neutral objectives start spawning, they can force Splyce to come to them and challenge them, and they should be able to come out on top because, again, of how weak Kobbe is and how far away he is from being relevant and strong in the game.
Totally agree with you there, Vedius, and Origen will be licking their lips looking at these neutral objectives because Splyce is showing no signs of stopping fighting. Humanoid and Xerxe coming across here, trying to get some vision for the Splyce team, and Origen have relatively good control. It's going to be played out just a little bit by Xerxe, but he's unable to get close enough to that control ward. Didn't know where Zanzarah was hiding.
Okay, so you can see that the red buff is actually just spawned. Xerxe is going to that, and they're not going to contest the red buff. I think this is the smart thing from Splyce. Even though they have the Trinity Force done on Humanoid, I still do not think the Splyce is strong enough to contest this objective. They have a couple of TPs available, but the smart thing to do, disengage, give this one away, and I do believe the next Drake is actually an Infernal as well. So things only seem to be getting better for Origen in this game so far. If they can take down that mid-tier 1, that will be all the outer towers down, and they can just continue to press their lead.
Kobbe's going to face check straight into Mithy here. Zanzarah is there as well. Oh, didn't do the face check. Used the ward. But look at that control from Origen. 3 control wards, all in this blue side jungle. You can see what they're playing around. Norskeren trying to duck out and clear out one of them, but unable to do it. Meanwhile, Humanoid is pushing in the top lane. Xerxe and Vizicsacsi down towards bot, trying to keep Nukeduck at bay. That mid lane tower is very low, and Origen could look for a dive.
Look, Alphari is building Zhonya's. We can't confirm he's going AP.
Vedius.
He's going AP. Makes me happier. I'm glad he's going for the AP. And OG will finally take down that mid tier 1. It was bound to fall, but I liked how they were playing between the two lanes, forcing Xerxe to come and answer. He does help the bot, which then relieves pressure mid, which allows OG to secure that one. So again, this is really important for OG. They need to keep the pressure up. They need to keep the pace of the game going like this, because of course, they will get to a point where this Garen Yuumi comes online and Humanoid completes like his second, his third item, with which Splyce will be very strong. And at that point, Vizicsacsi and Xerxe should be just big, tanky meat shields that just sit on the front line and absorb all this pressure. And then Splyce can just keep diving and diving and diving and diving. And it gets really hard for Origen, which is why having a gold lead is very, very important for them. And it's a good thing that OG have been able to find it. So next big objective for them, obviously we're at 17.5 minutes in. So trying to say things like Baron and Dragon is a lot harder. It's
yeah, Baron's really hard at 17.5.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm saying. It's really difficult to do.
Very hard.
Some may say impossible, but
nothing is impossible.
Nothing is impossible, exactly. Fun fact, in this state of play, again, Nukeduck could actually be setting up a freeze if he wants to. It's a little harder because he is running Static Shiv, but because there are no objectives to play around and Splyce's comp really sucks at sieging, they could be doing that.
Yeah. He's not.
He's not going to do that. He's going to ping-pong the wave once again. Personally, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but I'm just saying that is an option available to Origen. It is something that they could do if they wanted to. They don't want to.
Second item is now complete on Nukeduck. He's gone for the Xerxe Gauge. We'll build Infinity Edge next, you have to expect on the Yasuo. Gives you that extra crit that is so impactful on the Samurai. And Humo's continuing to try and push in. Alphari looked like he was going to go for the fight there. Does get the stun lock. Zanzarah misses the body slam flash. Lands the cast though. TP coming here by Splyce, so they look for the fight. Alphari down to half HP. Double TP from Splyce. It's actually only one, but for some reason looked like two to me.
It did look like two. Wait, Vizicsacsi did
Vizicsacsi's
TP
must have
in.
been cancelled.
It must have been cancelled,
Looks like Nukeduck went in, and now the fight continues in the top lane. Mithy dodging around. Xerxe in with the Cataclysm. He Q's out, but he still gets stunned up. See Norskeren unwilling to jump onto Xerxe with the zoomies. Now pops onto him. Zanzarah still on the chase. The slow comes out, but it's not going to be enough. And Splyce just lose a 1 in the top lane.
Origen can look for the mid-tier 2 now, though. Vizicsacsi's got to do what he can to clear out this tower, or is it going to get dived?
Mithy is behind him. Oh, Chachi with the slice and dice. Mithy a little bit too predictable there. Mid lane tower looks like it's going to go down as Chachi tries to get close enough to Patrik. Still lands the stun. That's a lot of damage, and Chachi is coming up huge here for Splyce. Teleport used by Humanoid. He's going to bring Norskeren into this battle, and Origen may have overstepped. They may have overstayed. The last breath coming out is going to catch out Humanoid, but they don't have the damage to take him down. Fouling projectile doesn't quite connect. Origen lose 2 as they went for the mid lane play.
Great performance there from Vizicsacsi as he manages to hold the line and even find a kill onto Patrik. Just great awareness of how much damage output your champion has. As I was not expecting him to one-shot Patrik. Patrik still had the flash, so he probably wasn't expecting it either. But
I
he's
think
able to find
Patrik
that
may
kill.
have taken a tower shot or 2 during it. I think.
No, he didn't, because he used his ultimate as well, and it was Nukeduck that was actually tanking the tower. So in the replay, we'll get to see it. Humanoid just trying to put along some pressure onto the tower. He gets stunned up. Unfortunately, here Zanzarah fails his flash, but is able to get the ultimate. Off the back of this, as we can see here, the teleport does come through. Nukeduck gets the interrupt.
Cancel.
Yep. So that means that's why only 1 TP ends up coming through, and that also helps Zanzarah get out of this tricky situation. Then, of course, the Lovers duo make their roam up towards the top side of the map. They try to go for this chase, and they won't end up finding any kills. And when we get to this mid-tower dive, because this ends up flashing out here, yep. But once we get to this mid-tower dive, what we'll end up seeing is how initially yeah, we'll get to see it now. So initially the knockup, so the initial knockup from Mithy ends up missing, and you can see Patrik here. So he's at full health. Time!
Zanzarah just about able to escape with a beautifully placed cast, but this is the Infernal Dragon. Remember how we talked about it was all coming up for Origen? Well, Splyce. And now the team with the advantage. Mithy has a flank position, has got the ultimate, has flash as well. Splyce just trying to draw Origen out. They know Zanzarah's low. Infernal Dragon down to about 4,000. Nukeduck towards the top side of the fight, pops the wind wall. Big cooldown down, but now the Infernal has been restarted by Origen. They're trying to sneak it away.
Very low health Zanzarah. They do get the reset.
Ooh. Oh, here's the charge! Mithy with the flank and Alphari slices them up like pieces of sashimi. Beautiful play by Origen. Chachi tries to do what he can, but it's a triple. Make that 5 for Origen as they destroy Splyce.
And Origen find a perfect fight. Yes, they get the kill onto Zanzarah, but it does not matter. Mithy with a beautiful flank with Alphari following up, allow Origen to find the ace, and they should secure the Baron.
Beautiful stuff from Origen. They're looking to take us all the way to Game 5 in this regional gauntlet match. They are not done with the season yet. There goes the Baron. 22 minutes in, the fastest one of the series, I have to think. And with it, Origen have a 6,000 gold lead.
Remember, Splyce did get a 20-minute one, I
yes,
think, in Game 2.
It's been a long time.
And they're going to grab the Infernal as well. Origen going to feel very strong right now as a mountain spawns next. They're in a prime position to snowball this game, and this is setting up to be one of the fastest games of the series, but we'll see how... So, let's look at the fight. Initially, Zanzarah, he tries to clear out a ward that he has no business clearing out. He buys a little bit more time, but the rest of his team is not in a position. Really clutch ultimate, just barely keeps him alive. Now, Splyce think they can stick around because, of course, they have 5 members and Zanzarah's not here. They think that they can get a collapse onto Nukeduck. That doesn't happen, but keep your eyes on what Mithy is doing in the flank. He comes around on vision, but they don't pay attention to that. They're not noticing it before it's too late. He comes in from behind, gets the 3-man charm, and then Alphari lands the ult. And we've been talking so much about how when it comes to these fights, it's really important that Splyce pick the right one. They know when they're ready. And they were getting close to that point. You can see on their itemization that they were, once they completed another item or two, then they could have started to look to fight Origen, but they felt too confident. They felt that with Zanzarah gone, they would be able to siege. They end up getting punished, and Mithy with a beautiful flank allows Origen to secure Baron.
Pretty sure I saw Xerxe did 14 damage in that fight. Humanoid did 0. When your key carry in the form of the Corki isn't getting any damage off, you know you're pretty much done for. Origen open up the base 24 minutes in. They kept the pace of this game very much in the fast lane. They will take down the inhibitor and then back away. Still 1 minute 40 seconds on that Baron. And they have already cracked open Splyce's defenses.
So will they look to reset, or will they look to continue siege in the top lane? Looks like they're just going to go for the reset. I mean, he does have TP, so I don't think they need to. Yeah. I like that they didn't reset yet. I don't think they need to. They still have 1 minute left on the Baron. I think they can at the very least secure that top tower, or at least put pressure onto it as Alphari pushes in the bot. They now have super minions making their way down mid. And with a whole minute left, I think this is the better play.
Origen agree. And that's why they're going for it.
Well, they seem a little hesitant right now, because look at how Vizicsacsi just approaches the wave.
So I think they're trying to sync their waves up, right?
I mean, it could be, you're right,
The next wave coming in.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. I agree with you.
Thank you, baby. You know where I learned that from? You.
Oh. Good job, me. But yeah, I think you're right. I think they know they have another wave coming in top lane as well, so it's fine if they lose this one. Cannons are getting close to spawning every wave. 25 minutes is when that starts to happen. So they're now going to be setting the siege with the cannon minion. They have the super minions in mid, and the wave is hitting bot. Vizicsacsi's actually gone bot to hold this.
Patrik popped the Feather Storm, but he did get caught in the final chapter. Now, here comes the damage from the side. Nukeduck on the back line. Kobbe almost down to 0 HP. He just about survives. Nukeduck did what he could. He wasn't quite enough. Zanzarah now joining up with the rest of Origen. And it looks like actually Alphari was kept at bay by Chachi down towards that bottom lane. Patrick's pushing in, healing up, but Mithy's backed, and he doesn't have a teleport.
Okay, well the Baron buff's just about to run out. They very nearly find a couple more kills, but Origen not quite able to secure that one. I would imagine that they'll wait for the next Drake, maybe even the next Baron, before looking to end this game. Obviously, that does give Splyce a little bit of a window to potentially come back, but the Corki is very far behind. If we swap over to the gold, you can see what I would call a deficit between the two mid laners.
I think most people would.
Yep. Even though he is level 15, he's quite far behind.
3,000 gold difference.
Yep.
4,000 between the bot laners.
Yep. So again, props to Origen for successfully snowballing it, but again, like, I can't put...
Okay, I give credit to Origen, but Splyce messed up.
Yes, they really did. They tried so hard to force so many early game plays, and I was fine with them making picks onto Alphari on the top side of the map, but like the number of dives that they tried to force, and that like they just didn't need to. They just wanted to keep the game slow. They didn't want to run the risk of Origen getting ahead, which is exactly what they allowed Origen to do. So They're now getting aptly punished for it, and now they're relying on Origen to make mistakes. Because the more mistakes Origen make, the more time Splyce have to scale, and then the Garen and the Corki can come online, and that is their best avenue back into the game.
Becomes very difficult when you have a 3-item Xayah, a 3-item Yasuo staring you in the
Mortal
face.
reminder as well.
Yeah, he went for a relatively early Executioner's Calling, actually, on the Xayah to try and mitigate some of the healing coming out from the Garen and the Yuumi. And it's worked out well. And of course, Renekton heals quite a lot if he gets that Cold and Meek off. Now this inhibits tower, the target for Origen, and no Baron buff on them. It's a minute before that comes back up. You can see Sjokz and Xerxe just getting chipped away at. That's down to about half HP now. And with Dragon up in 14 seconds and Baron in 50, I think we'll see Splyce get some vision control back away after this next wave and go for those neutral objectives.
Once again, you can see, oh, they might actually just try and split up the map. The easiest play would be to just go and secure Drake.
I like easy plays. I think it's in this sort of situation where you're 2-1 down and you know your rest of your year relies on winning this game, go for the easy play. You're far enough ahead.
Yep, I agree. Alphari, we can confirm, has gone for the AP build.
We could have confirmed that a while ago, by the way.
I mean, when you have Gunblade, I always get a little suspicious.
He did also get a Seeker's... Well, you said it. When he got the Seeker's Arm,
Yeah, but even then, I still don't trust for players.
Okay.
All right, Vizicsacsi a little overextended.
The charm coming out from Mithy here. Oh, good flash away, but the chase goes in with the grand entrance and the root will come out. Dominance popped by Vizicsacsi. He slices and dices away. Xerxe down to about half HP in the jungle as Zanzarah caught him out, and that's fine. You can burn a flash on Mithy for a flash on Sjokz.
I mean, I would rather keep the flash on
I
Mithy,
agree.
if I'm being honest. He is basically their engage tool. But all right. Splyce gain some control in their topside jungle. They'll be able to access the Baron area.
There is a blast cone there as well, which is important if Xerxe's looking for the steal.
So a lot of control wards in Origen's inventory. Oh, here we go.
Zanzarah flashes in, shouts to Humanoid. The Valkyrie comes out and he manages to get away. Healed up by the Yuumi, but now Sjokz. That TP sucked.
Yes, yes, it did. Oh, in goes
going in, he goes gold and even uses the QS as the Cataclysm comes out. And it's not going to be enough to save Xerxe. Humanoid and Kobbe have to do what they can in a 3v5 here. Norskeren on the back of Humanoid. Alphari on the flank has the slicing mushroom, has the flash, and Humanoid just about gets away. But that will be a very dead Garen. Origen knocking on the door of the base. It will take down their second inhibitor. It's mid.
I don't know if they can end, though. There's only 15 seconds left. Yeah, I think the smarter players go straight to the Baron, try and secure that objective. Vizicsacsi has no TP, you know this. Kobbe is not going to be alive in time to be able to challenge the Baron. So, yeah, I think this is the safer, better play. And of course, the Yasuo does Krugs when the rest of the team is clearing out vision.
We've all had that Yasuo in our solo queue games. Doesn't matter. They've got it.
They're going to get it.
It's fine.
Yep. Just saying.
Third fastest Baron in the series.
Third fast. Wait,
I don't
really?
know if that's true. I don't know. I just made that up.
I thought stats
I'll be honest.
you.
Bonnie did
I
not
thought it
tell
was
me
so
that.
funny. All right, so here we see Splyce positioning, looking for a fight. But of course, a great engage from Zanzarah basically bursts out Humanoid. Now, the ulti could have immediately come through from Nukeduck, and they probably could have found that execute, but it looks like he wasn't ready for it. He doesn't use it here either. And they do end up just one-shot. Of course, you can't cancel the teleport. And then he flashes in, uses the QSS plus stopwatch to buy time for the rest of his team to show up, and they find a couple more kills.
That they do. 30 minutes in, 9,000 gold lead for Origen. They have double Mountain, double Infernal. They have a Baron buff for the next 2 minutes, 44 seconds. And this should be pretty much all she wrote for this game, unless Origen make a few massive unforced errors.
I just want to...
I was actually the third fastest Baron! Connie just told me, our stats woman. Oh, thank you so much.
So
I'm here all week.
Just look at the items. Splyce is kind of strong now. They're online. Now, admittedly, of course, they are in a deficit, and that doesn't just become nullified because they've hit their power spikes, but they can feel a lot more confident about forcing fights.
They definitely do. Nukeduck uses the QSS too early. Vizicsacsi slicing and dicing in, TP in behind them here, and maybe they forced a little bit too soon, Vedius. Xerxe goes golden. Chachi now trying to do what he can, but he's down as well. And I'm pretty confident in my prediction that Origen are going to win this game. Humanoid tries to get away, but Mithy chases him down. Kobbe's spinning, but he's not winning. Norskaren's going to fall as well. A clean ace for Origen. What was that you were saying, Vedius?
I just had to bring attention to it. Splyce had hit the items. They looked for a pick onto Nukeduck, but he uses his fancy footwork along with the support from Zanzarah to turn the play around. And Origen, they're going to take us to game 5.
All of the way to game 5. It seems to be a tradition in the LEC now, as Origen fight back and equalize the series at 2-2. One game decides which team goes to play Sjokz tomorrow. The other team, well, their split is over.
Well, this just goes to show you can't just draft full scaling and hope for the best.
Well, you could if you didn't engage fights.
I mean, admittedly, yes, I do think that it's always a weird one to explain, right? Because it's one of those things where you're trying to tell people, hey, just don't do anything. Like, that seems counterintuitive and productive, but it's more about mitigating your losses, right? And it's about making sure that you do everything in your power to keep the gold as close as possible for as long as you can.
Yeah.
Because it's this idea that because of how well Splyce scale into the late game, the amount of gold that they have, you have to make sure that OG have that much more gold than that in order to stay ahead and control the game. So that's why a lot more pressure and responsibility falls on Origen. So they have to be proactive. But if you give them opportunities to be proactive, then it only works against you. And I feel like that's exactly what we saw in this game, and Origen were very good to punish.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it. I'm sure the Splyce coaching staff will be saying, hey guys, take it a bit easier. You know, the games we won, we were a little bit slower. We didn't have to play this early game. You saw game 1 where they struggled. It was Xerxe on Analyst. They didn't play through the early game, and that's the reason they lost. Origen, on the other hand, will be very happy with that win, especially when you have a team bring out something like Garen Yuumi, and you're able to stop it in its tracks. We haven't seen that happen too often in the LEC. So perhaps Splyce go back to the drawing board with their draft as well.
What I do find funny is that Alphari ended the game with 9 kills.
He's a beast.
And considering he left lane 0 and 2, as maybe even 0-3, the bot lane of Patrik and Mithy, where all of the gold is being funneled into, 2-1-13, 2-1-15. So really heavy support coming out from the bot side. And I mean, I didn't notice this, but Mithy actually involved in 17 of the 18 kills.
Yeah, Mithy's flanks on the Alistair and on the Rakan have been absolutely sublime. Like we would be praising Hylissang or Mickey to the 9s if they were doing things like this. So have to give him some credit, but what a way to start our regional qualifiers as Origen and Splyce prepare for game 5. It's Silver Scrapes, we'll be right back! And Splyce look down towards the bottom side, Splycing mouse comes down, Humanoid charmed up. And it will be a kill onto Alphari. Mid lane tower looks like it's going to go down as Chachi tries to get close enough to Patrik. Still lands the stun. That's a lot of damage, and Chachi is coming up huge here for Splyce. Oh, here's the charge with the flank, and Alphari slices them up like pieces of sashimi. Beautiful play by Origen. Vizicsacsi slicing and dicing in, TP in behind them here, and maybe they forced a little bit too soon, Vedius. Xerxe goes golden. Chachi now trying to do what he can, but he's down as well. And I'm pretty confident in my prediction that Origen are going to win this game.
I'm Quickshot, he's Ender.
And this is Answering Questions and Sneakers.
Mine are nicer.
Answering questions and sneakers.
And now it's time for questions. Questions?
If you could travel in time, when and where would you go?
Dinosaurs, so I can see a Triceratops.
I would go to space. I would go to Mars in like 40 years.
What if you go breathe?
I don't know, I like to live on the edge.